Hi, in this video you will learn all about process capability analysis, and I will explain everything with a simple example. So let's make process capability easy with muffins. Let's say we work for a company producing muffins which are sold to supermarkets. The label on our muffin states that each muffin weighs 90 grams. So of course we must make sure that we produce muffins around 90 grams. Underweight muffins can violate labeling laws and trigger recalls. Overweight muffins waste ingredients. So our goal is muffin weight control. We want to produce muffins within a defined range. For example, a muffin should weigh a minimum of 85 grams and a maximum of 95 grams. These are our specification limits. 85 grams is the so-called lower specification limit, LSL, and 95 grams is our so-called upper specification limit, USL. But how can we make sure that we produce muffins within specifications? That's where process capability analysis comes in. But what is process capability analysis? Process capability analysis is a statistical method that determines if a process can consistently meet specifications by comparing process variation with the specification limits. But how does a process capability analysis work? For sure, each process has a certain variation. The muffins we produce will vary to some extent. Now, process capability analysis compares this variation with the specific limits, and it tells you whether the process can consistently meet those specifications. But how do we calculate a process capability analysis? First, we need data, but we need good data, not just any data that comes along. So how do we get good data? We want to measure the weight of the muffins, so we must make sure the scale is measuring correctly. We can perform a measurement system analysis to ensure the scale isn't adding false variation. Feel free to watch my latest video for more information. Next, we collect data. Let's take a sample of 4 muffins every hour and record their weights. And now finally, with this data, we can calculate the so-called process capability indices, CP and CPK, and the process performance indices, PP and PPK. We will now have a detailed look at all 4 of them. Let's start with CP. So we have our lower specification limit with 85 grams and our upper specification limit with 95 grams. That gives us a specification width or tolerance of 10 grams. And of course, we have a certain variation of the process. If the process variation is large compared to the tolerance, the process won't be capable of reliably producing muffins within specifications. And this is what CP tells us. It's the ratio of the tolerance to the process width. Okay, the tolerance is clear. It is the upper specification limit minus the lower specification limit. But how do we calculate the process width? We estimate it as 6 sigma, where sigma is the standard deviation. More precisely, it is the so-called within-group standard deviation. But more on this later. Therefore, CP is defined as the tolerance divided by 6 sigma. And the tolerance is the upper specification limit minus the lower specification limit. So if the process variation is large compared to the specification width, CP is less than 1. If the variation is small compared to the tolerance, CP is greater than 1. And if 6 sigma is equal to the tolerance, CP is 1. So which CP value is good and which is no longer good? There isn't one universal official table, but these widely used rules of thumb cover most industries. Below 1 is not capable, 1 is the borderline, and above 1.33 is considered as capable. Now there's one thing to consider. If we plot weight on the y-axis, mark the specification limits and show the process variation, we'll get the same CP value no matter where our process is centered. So process can be centered here or there. In all cases, we get the same CP value, because the CP value just depends on the process width and the tolerance. Now you might say, what good is CP if I can get a great number while producing completely out of specification? The answer, a high CP tells you the process has low variation compared to the tolerance, and that's great. It's usually much easier to recenter process than it is to reduce variation. So it means in general the process is capable, it just needs to be recentered. So CP compares the tolerance with the process spread, but it doesn't tell us where that spread sits. That's where CPK comes in. CPK is calculated with this formula. It looks a bit complicated, but let's make it simple. Let's say this is our lower specification and our upper specification limit. Here we have the center of our process, so the mean value. And this is the process distribution. But let's hide it for now. As we now know, CP reflects the potential capability under ideal centering. So we have the same distance from the mean to the upper limit and lower limit. In contrast to that, CPK shows the actual capability, accounting for any mean shift. For example, here the critical limit would be the upper specification limit because the mean is closer to this limit, so that distance is used to calculate the CPK. If we go back to the formula, this distance is mu, which is the mean, minus the lower specification limit, and that distance is the upper specification minus mu. And we use the minimum of both to calculate CPK. So as long as the process mean lies between the lower and upper specification limits, we get a positive CPK value. If the process mean is outside the limits, either on the right or the left side, we get a negative CPK. We then divide the distance from the mean to the nearest specification limit by 3 times the standard deviation, 3 sigma, which is half of the 6 sigma process width. So the bigger the process width, the smaller the CPK value. If the process was perfectly centered, we would have the same distance left and right, and CP and CPK were the same. So with CP, we have a value that reflects the potential capability under ideal centering, and with CPK, we have a value that shows the actual capability, accounting for any shift from the center. We can use the same CP table to categorize CPK values. Great! Now we know what CP and CPK is. But what about PP and PPK? Earlier I said that sigma is the within-group standard deviation, so let's denote it as sigma W. But what does that mean? What is the within-group standard deviation? We measure the weight of 4 muffins at each time point. Now the within-group standard deviation captures the variation within each subgroup. Simply speaking, it calculates the deviation in these groups and averages all deviations. So we get a standard deviation that tells us how much the muffins vary within the groups. But this means we don't account for any deviations between groups. So even if the measurements look like this, we would still see a small within-group variation because the variation within each group stays the same. But for sure, the total variation also affects capability. This is where PP and PPK come in. Basically, the formulas for CP and PP and for CPK and PPK are the same. The only difference is which standard deviation we use. CP and CPK use the within group or short-term standard deviation. PP and PPK use the total or long-term standard deviation. Okay, but finally, let's calculate a process capability analysis online with Numico. If you like, you can load this example data with the link in the video description, or you can copy your own data into this table. Now we just click on Process Capability and then on Weight and on Subgroup. Here we can enter the lower specification limit 85 and the upper specification limit 95, and then we can see the results here. There we just see the process data. Here we have the within the group data with CP and CPK, and there we have the overall data with PP and PPK. But let's just briefly discuss the results. So our CP value is 1.5, which according to this table means the process is capable. Okay, but what are CPL and CPU? Looking at the formula for CPK, CPL is this term and CPU is that term. To calculate CPK, we can take the minimum of these two values. So CPK is 0.82, which is the small of the two. A CPK of 0.82 is not acceptable, so we need to recenter the process. ppm means parts per million. So a value of 6,869 means about 6,869 out of 1 million units are expected to be out of specification. And here are the overall results. As we know, within considers within group variation, while overall uses the total long-term variation. A PP of 1.46 indicates that the long-term potential capability is good. PP measures the process potential capability based on long-term variation only. It ignores centering. A PPK of 0.8 indicates that the long-term capability is not good. ppm overall is the long-term estimated defect rate. ppm overall of 8,499.19 means that based on the total sigma and your current mean, you'd expect about 8,499.19 non-conforming parts per 1 million produced. And if you like, you can also just click on Interpretation, then you will get a summary in words of this result table. Okay, but now there's another very important point. Classic capability analysis assumes your data are normally distributed. But what if they are not? In this case, you can have a look at non-normal process capability and just click here. My name is Hannah and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.